Hoyte van Hoytema has an astonishing body of work, shooting films for directors such as Spike Jonze, Sam Mendes, and most recently Jordan Peele. But today we look at possibly his most ambitious project yet, and as you already know, it's Christopher Nolan's Tenet.
Ordered my hot sauce an hour ago.
So why do I say it's his most ambitious project yet? Well, not only was a lot of it shot on IMAX cameras, but there are also scenes half in reverse, which must have been an absolute logistical nightmare. But how did they do it? In today's video, I look at what equipment Hoyte van Hoytema used, how he achieved the unique look of Tenet through lighting, composition and colour, as well as looking at how he achieved the backwards reverse scenes, because they didn't just walk backwards. How it's taken me over a year to do a video surrounding a Nolan film, I don't know, but what I do know is that he uses IMAX whenever he can, and this film more so than usual. Hoytema ended up using 6 different cameras on Tenet, an Avrill 765 as well as an IMAX Mark III, Mark IV and MSN 9802. On a side note, how are they still letting him use these things? As well as a Panavision Panaflex System 65 Studio and a Logmar Magellan. But keep in mind they didn't use IMAX nearly as much as this would suggest, since it's really difficult to record sound near an IMAX camera due to them being extremely noisy. You actually have to work with a different format, which is why they used the next best format, 65mm, for any dialogue scenes.
It's a very imposing camera. It feels very important when you're shooting something on IMAX. There's a nice pressure to it.
As for the film stocks, they opted for 65mm Kodak Vision 3, including the 50D, 250D, 200T and 500T, which are all some of the best and sharpest stocks on the market. What about the lenses though? Because you can't just have any lens on the IMAX cameras. Well, Hoytema just had some Hasselblad still lenses converted as he doesn't like the original IMAX lenses, saying, "The original IMAX lenses are dark, so Dan Sasky and his team customized these to achieve T2.0 and improve the brightness. They also tweaked the focus to enable us to push closer in on the more intimate situations." As for the lenses used on the 765 and 65 Studio, they opted for Panavision's Fulero 65 lenses, some of the most pleasing lenses in use today, creating soft skin tones as well as having an overall classic look to them. The overall look for Tenet is quite Christopher Nolan, as in, whilst I can't seem to pinpoint a specific style, you know it's one of his films within a minute of watching, and no, it's not just because of the sound mix. A few of the techniques I've seen through all of his films though are his use of bold colours as he rarely undersaturates, the strong use of composition and perspective with characters, as well as his naturalistic use of lighting, all of which I'll talk about today. Starting with the lighting, we have a very naturalistic style, apart from a couple of scenes where it feels like we're in Blade Runner 2049. We wanted reality, not beauty. We pretty much did away with the continuity and propensity to shoot in backlight, all of the things you were taught as best practice as a cinematographer. The aim was to take what was given, to use the natural, available light as much as possible, and to add as little extra light as possible. Looking more at Hoytema's lighting style, it's quite different from a lot of other DPs, as instead of lighting an actor, he lights the location. However, he doesn't bring light too close, as he finds it restricting. He doesn't even bring the lighting closer for close-ups, most likely to maintain the realism throughout the scene. I was lighting for the scene rather than just the shot. We will make adjustments for a given shot, but in achieving a fluid, visceral IMAX experience, it's about capturing immense levels of nuance. Your approach is to be pure. If you light a whole scene, you figure out where the light would be coming from, but for me, it's not ever a macro approach about shadows and such. As for what he was actually using to light scenes, Hoytema is a huge fan of natural light, due to its richness, which explains why there are so many shots showing characters in the bright sunlight. In recent years though, he's grown on LED lighting, as there is just so much control over them. They also take up minimal space and are much more flexible when it comes to tying them into lights already on location. When it comes to the composition in Nolan films, it's always bold, always done with serious purpose, and always tells a story. The major aspect I noticed in this film though was the utilisation of centre framing, which is becoming ever more prominent in recent films and TV shows. I mean, just by looking through this page of stills, the majority of the film is shot in the centre of the frame. Whether we are seeing characters on a railway track, on a yacht, or plotting a plane crash, it's just extremely prominent throughout. So what is centre framing used for? What does it portray in film? Well, it's a multitude of things, but we can most likely tell by the context of the shot. For example, right at the beginning of the film where we see the protagonist storming the opera house, we have him in the centre of the frame consistently. For one, this would have been used to show immersion in the environment. This is the beginning of the film, so a scene needs to be set. I would also suggest that it was to create power. We are thrown into this hectic setting and need to know who the protagonist of our story is and show how important he is over everyone else in the shot, and what better way to do it than to put them front and centre. And then we have sequences like this, where we can show impact in a shot, a character getting ready for a dive or having the meeting that sets the course for the rest of the film. These are moments where creating impact with the cinematography is incredibly important. And then we have pretty much all the shots of Sator. It's pretty clear these are to show power in a character until the very end. Looking at the composition as a whole though, it feels quite heavily reliant on centre framing, which not only immerses us more in the film, especially if you saw it in IMAX, but also helps tell the story through images, whether it's showing us important characters, items, or creating immersion in a new environment. And ultimately, cinematography is all about telling a story through images. There's something about the rich colours in Nolan films that make them absolutely mesmerising to watch. Yes, it's slightly tinted towards orange and teal, but why do we think filmmakers used it in the first place? I mean, it looks good, no matter how overused it is. Looking a bit more into it though, whilst a lot of the film is quite neutral on the colour temperature side, there are a lot more very cool shots than very warm shots, and that's especially prevalent in the first half of the film, but even more so in the darker parts of the film, and I mean that in a story sense. For example, the kitchen fight, the plane crash, the inverse fight, and most notably when Kat is shot. On the other hand, we have the much warmer sequences, like when the protagonist arrives in India, he and Kat having a conversation before things got a bit heated, then the final scene between Neil and the protagonist. We all know where I'm going with this. Cooler scenes are usually used to indicate coldness in a character or scene, show danger but also corruption. Orange and warmer colours on the other hand are used to show warmth, friendliness, and just have a sense of safety about them. But that can't be said for some scenes in the film, which goes to show that Hoytema takes that realistic lighting approach incredibly seriously.
If I can't have you, no one else can.
I really wanted to look at the symbolism of red and blue in this film, but I can't find anything from Nolan or even Hoytema talking about it. And unlike composition and lighting, where there are thousands of films to base theories off, there's just one Tenet, and I don't feel comfortable giving out information that isn't even accurate. There are several theories out there though, and all you have to do is Google red and blue meaning in Tenet. Overall, Hoyte van Hoytema is a very bold cinematographer. His use of lighting is really unseen at this level of budget, and the way in which he creates such a nonchalant atmosphere yet still having a very distinct look is incredible. So now for the reason that you are here. How did they shoot those inverse scenes? It's simple. Washington and Patterson learned to fight, walk and run backwards. Well, it's actually a bit more complicated than that. Yes, they did learn to fight backwards, but it isn't that simple. Not only did they shoot the same scene twice, once forwards and once backwards, but they also did absolutely everything practically, and all without a green screen. In order to make it look realistic though, the stunt coordinator George Cottle recorded stuntmen and actors doing simple movements, both forwards and backwards, to get an idea of how it would look in the film. He would then go to Nolan to see what he thought looked good. One of the biggest technical challenges was that we wanted the IMAX camera to be able to run in reverse to achieve certain in-camera physics that are not possible if the film only goes forwards. Now, reverse recording isn't exactly a new thing, but this is the first I'm hearing of it being used in recent years. Simply put, you capture the film in reverse to preserve the quality of the film, as reversing it in the editing room reduces that quality. This is one of those techniques that I'm sure many directors and DPs wouldn't bother with, but Nolan will not sacrifice anything when it comes to the quality of his films. Looking at what the effects team had to go through though is a bit more interesting. They had to rebuild cars to drive backwards. To do this, they would put a stunt driver in the back of the car looking backwards with all of the controls, obviously, but there are scenes where we are inside the car, and for this they just stuck the stunt driver on top in a cage with hundreds of thousands of dollars of IMAX cameras surrounding them. After making this video, I really want to rewatch this film, and I've been trying so hard to not rewatch movies this year, but I might have to make an exception. Overall, this is one of the most impressive films of the past couple of years, and whilst it's totally possible that you didn't find the story entertaining or thought the sound mix was off, I think I got really lucky with my showings because I never had a problem, or you just found it too long, you can't deny that it's really pushing the boundaries of what filmmakers can do today. I mean, they crashed a 747. Hoytema is clearly one of the most knowledgeable and talented cinematographers working today, and it shows in his work. His use of lighting is astonishing, how he frames characters to tell a story is masterful, and the way in which he uses colour is just so natural. Thank you to Bricks for this week's video idea. If you have a film or TV show that you would like to see me analyse, then leave a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed this video looking at how Hoyte van Hoytema shot Tenet. If you found this video helpful, a like is appreciated, and if you would like to see more videos like this, then hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.